We're ready.
All right, we're rolling. Welcome to episode 6 of Ryan and Dakota's Mapping It Out podcast. We were just talking before we started about how things are going, what the feedback is on, the current episodes and kind of just the general feeling of what we're getting from people. And I know from my end, dude, it seems really cool. Seems fantastic. It seems like people are really getting it, and it's really useful in helping people, which is ultimately like my whole goal of this was to help people not make the same mistakes I did. And I think it's pretty cool dynamic, and people seem to be digging it. So thank you guys for following along and being a part of this, and hopefully, getting something out of it and sharing with people you think would also find it valuable.
Hell yeah. I agree with you.
All right. All right, perfect. So today, the topic that we want to go over is, in the small spectrum, a Lamborghini that I bought, a couple years ago, and what the whole process is like. But in the big picture, what we're really talking about is how to reward yourself, how to know when the right time is, how to do it, just riding that line between rewarding yourself and then, you don't want to put yourself in financial difficulties either. And how do you know when the right time is? So that's what we're going to launch into. I guess we'll just roll right into it.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, cool. So when I first off, starting off, I've always been a car guy as a kid. I used to ride my bike to, Safeway is like 5 miles. I'd ride my bike there, and I had no money. So I'd read all the magazines. And then if I had enough money, I'd have one that was like, okay, I want to reread this. And I'd buy the one, pedal my ass all the way back home. And that would be the one magazine that I had for like months, and we grew up super poor. And so a Lamborghini was always something that, I had on my wall, but it was never something that I thought I would ever actually own myself. It was always just saying that like, oh, it's an impossibility. It's something rich people do. It's something that was always external to me. So when I got the opportunity to actually own one, dude, there was a lot of things I learned from that. Like it really threw me for a loop. From the ownership experience. So that's kind of what I want to dive into is what it meant to me to buy the car. And then also the technical aspects of like how I did it. Because before I bought it, I don't know, do you have to pay cash for them? Like what's the financing work? Like how much do you have to put down? It was all, a big mystery to me. So I think it'd be useful to kind of go through the process of like why I did it, how I did it, and then probably more importantly, like what I learned from that experience. So like I said, I've always been a car guy, and a friend of mine, Matt Newhouse, was the finance manager at La Jolla Lamborghini at the time. And so I went over there, and I'd recently sold my kettlebell company. So I had like a little bit of cash from that, and industry was just starting out. So we had no overhead. So there was nothing I could put the money into in the company to grow it because it didn't require any overhead or any capital. So I was kind of left with this lump sum from the business that I really didn't have any use for. I didn't know what to do with it. And it was the first time I've actually had a decent amount of money in my life. So I was like, I think 38, and I was used to living paycheck to paycheck. Even despite all doing all the entrepreneur stuff and everything, it was just always felt very hand to mouth type thing. So this is the first time that I'm like, holy cow, like I actually have a little bit of money here. What do I do with it? So I would go there and I just look at the cars, and was talking to Matt, and we came to the conclusion like, I can actually buy one, which was kind of weird. And I went in there one day, not expecting to buy a car. I was just on my way back from somewhere else, and I was cruising back to PB where I lived. And I was like, I'll just stop in and say hi to Matt, right? So I cruise in. I'm in like cut off cami shorts. I think like a Motley Crue t-shirt or something. I cruise in there, and they just chatting about it. And there's one car there that had everything I was looking for. And they're like, well, the old car salesman tactic, what's stopping you from buying it today? Yeah. And I was like, actually, you know what? I don't have a reason. There's no reason I can't buy it today. I was like, wow, that's weird for me to say. Yeah. It's like a, almost $300,000 car. But I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So then we started the process, and there was a few things. I'll get into the technical aspects, but I remember I didn't talk with Disney about this before. We're dating, but we weren't married yet. And I just bought like a Jeep SRT, which like the Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a pretty nice, like at that point, the nicest car I'd ever had by
Yeah.
far. And I called her up and was like, "Hey, babe, you can bring the SRT to the Lambo dealership?" She's like, "Why?" It's like, "Because we're buying a Lamborghini." She's like, "What?" Like, I'll explain. I'll explain when you get here. But it was, dude, there's so much I learned from that. But to dive into the technical aspects of it, so you don't need to pay cash for it. I found out, which was nice. But you do need to put a chunk down. So basically it comes down to how much you want to finance, right? So in this case, I got it for $280,000 out the door, right? So, and the deal I made with them was I had just put, I was just getting into Amex cards at the time. So I just submitted for a new Amex card. And they have this deal where if you put, I think it was like $35,000 on it in the first 30 days, you get like quadruple the points or something. There's something like that. I forget the details. So I talked to him and like, okay, I'll put $30,000 cash down and I'll put $50,000 down on a credit card to get the points back. So they did that, and that immediately made me, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 back because of the points I got on the credit card.
Yeah.
So that was where the $80,000 down came from. That's how I did that. And then I financed $200,000 over, I want to say, and the financing on these cars is different. It's not like you just go to Wells Fargo and get a loan for, $200,000 for a car. My credit was pretty good. I think it was like 780 or 800 or something at the time. But it wasn't, once you're over 720, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But what I found interesting though is that the finance managers there, that you need to have kind of a trust relationship with the lenders. So we were using TD Auto Finance, which turns out they're a pretty big lender, and they usually only, my understanding was they only work with like pretty high-end exotics. So I wouldn't have qualified for like an Aventador, which is twice the cost, because I didn't have a relationship with the lending company yet. So, but I did qualify for the $200,000 for the Huracan. So that's what I ended up getting a loan for. And interestingly enough, too, I was looking at a used one because I was like, dude, I don't want to take the depreciation. I want to buy a used one. It'd be cheaper. But it's actually cheaper for me to buy a new one. And here's why. Financing $200,000. And this is 2016 when I bought it. So they had just come out in like 2015. So the used ones were only like $10,000 cheaper than a brand new one, because they were so new and they hadn't really hit the market yet. So it was only $10,000 cheaper. But the difference in financing rates, I got like a 1.9% financing for a new car, whereas I could get like 2.9% financing for a used car. So that 1% over $200,000 was, I think, like $30,000 difference over the course of the loan. So it was actually $20,000 cheaper for me to buy a new one because I got a lower percentage rate on the interest on the loan. So that was interesting to me. That it was actually cheaper to buy a new one.
I know, right?
Yeah, there's so many things I figured out through this process that I just had no idea how they work. And then, financed $200,000 of that. And I think it was like 6 or 7 year loan or something, which turned out to be $3,025 a month is what it cost me to have the car. So it's not an unreasonable amount of money. And funny enough, when I sold the car, and that's the thing too, when you sell these cars, the way to go is to have the dealership do a consignment deal, because you don't want, what are you going to listen on Craigslist and you got a bunch of tire kickers coming and like, I know, right? I want to test drive it. And like, how do you vet them? And they're just going to like wreck your car. It's just a total shit show. So I would always recommend that when you buy the car, plan on having a great relationship with the dealership, because when you go to sell it, no matter what you get into next, you definitely want to have them do the selling for you. Mm-hmm. And on that too, the car is the car, right? But if you just want to go fast, there's plenty of faster cars, better performance that are way cheaper. Like Corvette is an amazing vehicle as well, and significantly cheaper. So if you're buying the car not just for the performance, which is cool, but you're buying the car because of what it is, a Lamborghini, now we get into it's moving beyond the value of the car into the value of the experience. Yeah. So I was talking with another dealership up in Newport that I could have got a slightly better deal on a car, maybe like, $10,000 cheaper or something like that. But they were up in Newport, and my buddy was at La Jolla, and the dealership, especially at the time, they were throwing all these events, and it was just really cool. There's other owners of exotics there, and it was just a really cool vibe and a really interesting thing to be a part of. So I ended up paying, slightly more. I still think I got a pretty good deal on the car, but I paid slightly more to buy it from that dealership because the ownership experience and the relationship I had with them made that so much more fun to have. It's not just about having the car, it's the amount of people you meet from that
Right.
car. So that was an interesting thing too, to really realize that, like, it's not like, the difference of $280,000 or $270,000 on a car like that is not a make or break
Hmm.
thing. You know what I mean? It doesn't, that's not the major important factor in the decision. The major thing was, what do I want my experience to be like owning this car, and who do I want to be around and do that with?
Hmm.
So that's why it was really good to have that relationship with Matt and the Hoya O'Gara Lamborghini. Um, and then, so that's a technical aspect of how I bought it. I'm probably missing a few pieces in there. Do you have any questions on it so far?
I'm like,
go
I'm
over.
like, do I get one?
You can.
Yeah.
But that's the point. It's not as crazy
Yeah.
as you would think.
Because that's like where I want to break down of, I feel like most entrepreneurs go the entrepreneur route because they want that lifestyle in
Yeah.
a way. They want to be able to afford anything. They want the financial freedom, right?
Mhm.
So to me, I'm like, I want an Aventador. I
Yeah.
want a Lamborghini Aventador.
Yeah.
So that's why I became a business owner. So I
Yeah.
have no cap of how much money I can make. So in my opinion, I'm like, how much money, in your opinion, should I be making or netting
Mhm.
to put like to buy a purchase something like that?
Yeah, and
know?
that's the fine line that every person has to walk, because there is a difference between being able to buy something and being able to afford it,
Yep.
right? So in this case, I was able to afford it because I had a day job that paid pretty well at the time. Industry was starting to go well, and I just sold a company that did fairly well. So it's like, okay, all these things combined, this is the right time for me to do this. I'm never going to do it. Like, now is the time.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, too, it was, dude, the first 6 months I had that car, like, I fully expected every day to wake up and
Like,
be like, it'd be repoed, I go
Yeah,
out to the
yeah,
driveway,
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God,
It's
this is
I'm
still
not
here. Like,
supposed to
I
have
knew it,
this.
they made a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to have it. They finally, realized they sold it to the wrong guy. But yeah, it took me a good 6 months before I really was comfortable with it, and really thought, like, oh, you know what? Like, I can afford this.
Mhm.
This is not something, you know, that's just unattainable sitting on a wall somewhere. This is the real thing that I brought into my life and sits in my driveway now. And but it was I thought it was very eye-opening for me that it took me 6 months to even really realize that, holy shit, the story I've been telling myself about, like, this is unattainable,
Mhm.
was not true.
Yeah.
It totally was. And it wasn't that outlandish at all. And interestingly enough, as you're getting into building a company and scaling and all that, $3,000 a month is less than most people pay for an employee.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at scaling a company, you're like, okay, I've got, 10 employees. That's 10 Lamborghinis. You know what I mean?
When you told me that, when I first started my business and I started to hire people, and I asked you about this question, like Lamborghini.
Mhm.
You're like, dude, you can either have a Lamborghini or you can have an employee.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. And it hit me. I
Yeah.
was like, you're so right. And employees, I think, especially in the beginning, like that's how you scale and that's how you make
you
more
have
money,
to, yeah,
right? You
exactly.
have to do that to delegate. So when you said that, I was like, oh shit. Okay. Yeah. You need 10 employees, not 10 Lamborghinis. And like
Right.
what you're trying to do. But I
Yeah.
was like, that hit home when you're like Lamborghini or an employee. I'm like, shit.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting too. Like last year, I forget, it was about a year ago when we got into, like, we realized we were way overextended with the company and we had massive amounts of overhead that we didn't need. So we ended up cutting the team down from 24 people to 12, and we subleased out 2 of our spaces and some other stuff. But altogether, that was around $600,000 a year in overhead that we were saving.
Wow.
So that's two. I could have bought 2 Lamborghinis cash every year for the amount of just random extra overhead I had that didn't affect the business at all. Like after we made those cuts, we still grew an extra, I think we went from 6.4 million to 7 million that year.
Mhm.
But we had so much extra overhead for really no reason. Cause I was like, oh, that's a whole other topic. Like, I was like, grow, we'll do this, we'll
Yeah.
do this. And I wasn't checking shit. But yeah, it got us into a lot of trouble because our overhead was just way too massive for what we needed. Um, but yeah, it comes back down to a Lamborghini is not as crazy expensive as most people think it is, right?
Mhm.
Once you dial it down to like, okay, what do I need to make per day, per month, per week, or per project to be able to afford this? And yeah, it's typically cheaper. One Lamborghini is typically cheaper than one employee
Yeah.
for the most part. But then it gets into like, okay, where do you draw that line of like, okay, do I need 3 employees and 1 Lamborghini, or like how
Yeah.
where does that line
See,
fall?
and that's where I want to answer or ask you this question and then go into like treating yourself. Like, cause I will tell myself like, oh, I want these things, but I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, put the money back into the business for now. But I still want to treat myself,
Yeah.
talk about that. But going back to the Lamborghini, you got the Lamborghini. It's this thing that you thought about when you were growing up, what you wanted,
Yeah.
and you fucking got it. What was it like 6 months after that when you like, was it still fresh? Like I have a Lamborghini, or did it sink in and it just became a normal car?
Yeah. So it took me about 2 years to kind of not get over it, because that sounds super fucking pretentious. You're over like a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
But after a while, man, it's like anything else. Like you just get used to it and it just becomes another car. But through that was another realization that the car helped me get through, was that all these things that you think are unattainable and they're so big and they're so great, humans are really good at getting used to shit,
Yeah.
no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not bored with it, but it started to just become another car. But also too, by sharing that experience with others, like letting my friends drive it, became way more fun. Like letting kids get in it and rev it and taking pictures of them in it. They were it was so fresh to them and so unique and such a cool, like just life experience for them, that it kept it fresh for me too. I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is unique. This is different. This is not normal. This is kind of a unique experience, but it made me feel like a douche to get used to it. To be
Yeah.
honest.
But like you said, I think that's what we do as humans. We kind of
You just get used
we
to
adapt to everything, in that way. So it's just, that's why I've always wondered, because I'm like, I want a Lamborghini, but like we'll get to the point where it's like, I want a Lamborghini and a Rolls Royce. And then like
Yeah.
I want a mansion. Like it's like, of course, like things always change, but it's like I was always curious to someone that had a Lamborghini. Does it just become a car where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, cool.
But it's funny too. Like, I learned so much from that ownership process. But I used to say like, oh, I need 2 Lamborghinis. I just need one, because it was always so far external that I
Yeah.
never even thought I'd get there, that I was like, oh, I don't need 2. I put Lamborghini in the same space as like a jet or a yacht or something.
Yeah.
We were all in it unattainable. I didn't realize like, okay, I can afford a Lamborghini, but I could definitely not afford a yacht or a jet. I didn't realize the difference between, $300,000 and $30 million.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was such a stretch to them, because I just classified them all as unattainable. So I was like, I thought once you're rich, you get all of them the same day.
Yeah.
And you got to pay cash. That was
Right?
what I was thinking. I didn't realize
That's so
like
funny.
how layered these things were.
I think that's a good lesson for anything. When you think of something and you're like, I want that, go figure it out to see if it's true and like how you can obtain it, because like you would have kept thinking like, oh, that's for like rich people. But in reality, it's like, no, anyone can have it. It's like, it's not affordable if you can't afford it, but you can get it.
Yeah. I mean, think about like, if you really, can you squeeze an extra $3,000 a month out of what you're doing? And a lot of people, yeah, that's not a huge stretch for a lot of people,
Yeah.
Some people, like most of my life, I couldn't squeeze an extra $300
Yeah,
a month, But I think the point where it makes sense for me to do that now, if I didn't have that initial experience, and for me to do it now, it'd be around 10%, where it's the $3,000 a month for me is not really going to impact a whole lot. Like I won't really notice it. You know what I mean? Because we spend so much. Like I just bought a computer, the $4,000 computer. I'm like, fuck, I hate buying computers, and that bothers me that I have to. It's going to last me 5 years. And
Yeah.
I know I need it, but
Yeah.
it bothers me to do that. But also, it feels good that I don't have to check my bank account and like, okay, it doesn't really affect me to do it. It just bothers me mentally that I have to pay $4,000 for a damn computer.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that's a roughly 10%. I've heard from
Of what you net, what you bring in completely, or
yeah, but I don't pay myself that much.
yeah.
Like if it's 3,000, I don't pay myself 300 a year. I pay myself way less than that, but it's what I could take out of the company if I wanted to. And it's depends how you define, you know, EBITDA. There's it's so variable. But I think for me, the real thing is like how much is that $3,000 going to hurt me? And if it's the point where I don't really notice it, that's the point where like, okay, I can definitely afford it, and it's just not a big deal. But also too, I think I'm really glad I bought it when I wasn't sure. I'm really glad I went through that experience of stretching my own like perspective and mindset when I was like, shit, I don't know if I can afford this. But the act of doing it really helped me trust myself and realize that I was right. Like I can afford it. I was totally fine with it. And honestly, if I wasn't such an idiot and made so many mistakes, I probably could have got it a lot sooner, you know?
Yeah.
I was just so stuck in my own ego, my own head about so many things. But having that car and pulling it out of, you know, the realm of impossibility and putting it in my driveway really was a huge step up for me and my mentality to really realize what I can do. And it was one of those things like once I realized that, I was like, oh shit, number one, wow, a yacht and a jet are really far away.
Yeah.
But also the realization, if I brought this into my life from nothing, what's it going to take to get to the next one?
Yeah.
What's going to take to get a yacht, a jet, you know, whatever the next thing is. So I think that was really important for me to do that at that time, because I didn't realize how small I was thinking and how small my goals were until I actually achieved something that I thought was like the pinnacle, you know. And then I realized through the process of climbing up to that, I realized how small that actually is. And especially once you get in that car and you start talking with other people who are like, oh yeah, I got 3 of them. They're like, oh yeah, I got a yacht, I got a helicopter, got the shit. I'm like, oh my God, I'm still poor.
I'm way behind.
Right? God, I'm still poor. But it was really cool to see and interact with people who were doing shit way, way bigger than me, because it helped me set my sights bigger. I was just thinking too small. And there's no reason that I couldn't do much, much bigger things, have much more impact, and just live a bigger life, a more fun, fulfilling life. There's no reason I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was just, I was just thinking too small. So that car really helped me step out of that. But it was interesting too, like you're talking about Aventador. I remember my buddy Frankie, been friends with him for like almost 20 years now. He's the first Lamborghini I ever rode in was his, right? And he had a Gallardo at the time, which is there's 2 styles of Lamborghini. The base one, which is like the doors open up like a normal door. And then Lambo, there's always the higher end one has the doors that open scissor doors, like Lambo doors. And I didn't know that. I was like, okay, I just know Lamborghini. I didn't care which way the doors opened up. So his first Lamborghini was a Gallardo. And I was driving around in Vegas with him, or he was driving, was cruising around, all excited to be ripping around a Lamborghini. He's like, yeah, it's cool, but this fucking thing, it doesn't even have scissor doors, Lambo doors. And I'm like, fuck you talking about, dude? It's a Lamborghini. This is cool as shit. This is awesome. I don't care where the doors go. But you know what's funny? After I got the Huracan, the doors open regular, like, I know what you mean. I kind of want the fucking doors.
You have to have the doors.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to see that it was another example of I was thinking too small. I didn't realize what further steps were. I didn't realize what his perspective was because he was so far ahead of me that I couldn't see what he saw. You know, I just thought, oh my God, Lamborghini. I didn't realize there's levels to it, you know?
Yeah.
Now I'm like, but now that I'm in a position where it's not, I mean, I could afford both. You're either now. And I'm like, I chose the Huracan because honestly, Aventador it's a huge car.
Yeah.
It's a big car. It's not any faster. It's more pain in the ass to drive. The electronics are way older. It's on its end of its life cycle. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons, but yeah, so that's basically the story. I mean, dude, I learned so much from that whole experience though.
When do you treat yourself? The reason I ask is because I am
Good question.
I'm looking to get a new place.
Yeah.
I want something nice,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, you work your ass off. You should.
Okay.
There you go.
that was so. Sometimes I feel like I'm like I have to like talk to like my mom or something. I'm like, no, just do it. It's
Yeah,
nice,
well, but also too,
because it's like the price of a Lamborghini where I want to go. So it's kind of like it's new to me, and I'm like, okay,
that's good. It should be a little bit of a stretch, you know. And you work your ass off. Any entrepreneur who's getting anywhere requires a shit ton of work. You're gonna work your ass off, and it's like you can't ask anybody, including yourself, to expend energy and perform at a high level continuously on and on and on and on without some kind of reward. So I think if you feel like you're ready for one, it's time to let yourself eat a little bit, you know. And also too, I think that's a great idea to get something that is, you know, maybe right now a little bit of a stretch, because it builds that trust in yourself. Oh shit, I don't know, maybe I can do this, maybe I can't, but then you do it and you realize that you'll be fine. That's a really powerful and impactful like trust that you can build within yourself for that.
I like how you said like trust within yourself, because I talked to other people about it, and they're like, sometimes you just got to do that, because one, you'll learn from it and be like, okay, what you need to do to be able to afford that in that way. Another thing too is you get to that point, that should be your motivator to keep fucking going, you know? So it's like, I'm spending X on this place. This is like my dream of where I'm at right now. I love this. Maintain this and like keep going so you can get more out of it. You know what I mean? It's more, it should be a motivator of like, okay, you got it. Cool. Yeah. Don't get comfortable though. Like you have to maintain that and even more.
Absolutely, man. It's got to be that balance too, right? It should be a stretch, but not so much that you're like, oh, I screwed up.
Go out.
Yeah,
can't
exactly,
go out and do
dude.
anything else.
Exactly. It's supposed to. These things are supposed to enhance your life experience, not detract from it. Yeah. So if it's to the point where it's so much of a stretch that it's detracting from your life experience, that's not the plan. That's not the goal. Oh yeah. So another thing I wanted to bring up on this is that a common thing with this is if you have employees, they don't understand, oh, the boss got a Lamborghini, what the hell, you know? So you do have to make sure that everybody in your team is taken care of, and they're achieving their goals as you achieve yours. Because you can't say like they want a raise and you roll up in a Lamborghini like, oh, sorry, kick rocks. You can't get a raise.
You said like, what,
bro? Right? Yeah. Sorry, I can't hear you. So you can't do that. Like you have to really take care of your people and help them achieve their goals. So their goals and dreams are different. Help them achieve their goals. And once they're taken care of, then yes, you can go and reward yourself with something like that. But also too, like we're probably gonna do about 10 million this year. And and to back up, if we haven't told you guys this yet, I don't think we've mentioned this. So I'm going to get another Lamborghini.
Oh yeah, you didn't.
Yeah. So I just put it down on it. That's a whole different thing. But yeah, I'm going to get another one. But one of the things I was asking myself was like, shit, dude, like, what's the team going to think? Like, have we taken care of everybody? Are we set? Is everybody good? Is everybody making the money that they feel they deserve? Are we doing the right thing here? But also too, it came to the realization that we're going to, probably do to about 10 million this year. If we're doing 10 million and I can't afford a Lamborghini, something's fucked up.
Yeah, there's a problem. What I mean?
Yeah. So if you're working in a $10 million company and your boss can't afford a Lamborghini, you're like, okay, well, that's not a good sign. You know what I mean? And it might make them a little bit nervous about committing to the company if I, as the owner, can't pull out enough to do that. And that's one of the things that made me comfortable with buying one again. Was I was struggling with that. Like, what is a team going to think? But then I was like, okay, yeah, we do take care of our team. And also too, we're a big enough company now to where it would be kind of awkward if I couldn't,
That's such a good perspective. I'm curious, did you ask the team?
I did not.
I'm just curious because like,
I could be totally wrong on this. I could be completely wrong.
Fucking Ryan.
Yeah, like fuck that guy.
Took us somewhere. No, that's funny.
Yeah, but I think we do keep a pretty good pulse on like the culture and what people think and what they're making and what their goals are, and so we do track that pretty closely. So I feel confident that like they'll be fine with it. Plus, my whole goal of this, I want them to drive it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
right.
First day I get it, I'm gonna have all of them go and drive it around the parking lot. You know, and if their insurance is up to it, like maybe I'll have them go like, dude, take your girlfriend on a date with it. You know, have a great time. I want that car to be a part of the company culture. I want them to be like, oh fuck, my boss lets me take his Lamborghini out and take my girlfriend to dinner with it. Like that's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like, and to me, I'm going into it this time knowing that it is just another car. So I'm not really worried about it from my perspective. I'm not worried about the car. I'm buying the car for the experiences that it allows me to have in my life and the people that allows me to, you know, give that experience to. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun, man. So I'm looking forward to having it again. It's not really like for me, because it is for me, but to be able to share that experience and reward myself with being able to share that experience with others is super. Talk about rewarding yourself, you know, that's my reward now, is I want to be able to help people like break through their own things. And like, hey, I drove Ryan's Lamborghini. Like, what's it take to get my own? Like, awesome. Let's talk about it. What does it take?
Yeah. I think it's cool. Yeah. It's like a sample, like a sampler.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they probably never driven one or drove one. So it's kind of just like, oh, like, I feel it. It's tangible. It's in front of me.
Real thing.
How the fuck did you do this? Like, I want to know. I work with you in your company. You're the boss. So I understand you have it. But what can I do to get that to what you want, you know? So I think that's really respectful of like you as a CEO is like, you look out for your people. I know a lot of people that don't really look out for their people. Well,
you have to,
culture,
man. The people are what run everything.
And I think they forget sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, people are always stepping over their own ego. But Andy has a really good perspective on this. He's
Andy Frisella?
Yeah. So he has, you know, obviously a ton of cars, but he has 3 people on his staff that he pays $1 million a year. That's how much they make. You know what I mean? So making $1 million is awesome, but being able to pay somebody $1 million, that's some baller shit.
That's balls. You know? Yeah. That's like, that's so, yeah, man. That's crazy when you think about it.
Isn't it
like,
nuts?
I make $1 million. Well, I pay $1 million to one person. Like, that's like, oh, okay.
That's a whole different goal, man. Yeah, it was really cool.
So, that's a great way to look at it. I love that. Wow. That's so cool.
Dude, that's the thing. That car, man, it really opened up a whole lot of just conversations. And through those conversations, it's exactly that. I'm like, oh my God, that blew my mind the first time I heard him say that, you know, because it's totally different than what most business owners are saying. It's like, oh, I got to get my P&Ls up and I got to pay as little as possible and Scrooge McDuck all the money. Like, dude, fuck that. Like, it's not like making money is good, but you have to have a company, a healthy company. But at the same time, it's like, dude, who do you want to be around? Who do you want to spend your time with? Like, how do you want people to perceive you in your space? Are you really helping people? You know, or do you just think you are? And like, but I think hanging around guys like that and hearing stories like that was really useful and impactful for me.
That's so, man. So I should get the apartment.
Absolutely, bro.
Yeah, I'll let my girlfriend know.
Just tell her, hey, babe, we're moving.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
Dang. I gotta treat myself.
Absolutely, dude. You gotta. Because otherwise, you're not gonna be able to perform the level that you want to. Like, you have to feed yourself. High performance requires high reward. There's just that's the equation, is what it is. Now, it doesn't have to be monetary, you know. Some people it's vacations, some people it's, you know, experiences, whatever. But that's why I think it's so important to define what it is to you that you value, and then feed yourself that. Because there's no way you're gonna be able to commit to, you know, sustaining high performance for a long time, which is what a business requires. No way you can commit to that without actually like rewarding yourself.
Did you ever think when you got the Lambo, this is gonna be great networking? Like people coming up to you and be like, "What do you do?" Like shit like that.
That wasn't so much a thing when I bought it, because this is like 2016 when I got it. But yeah, it definitely did help with networking, because I remember I had a Ford Focus. I had 2 cars. I had a Ford Focus at the time and a Huracan. And I would tell people the same shit. I'd pull up my Ford Focus and hand them, they'd be talking about apparel. I'd hand them a business card and be like, they're like, oh yeah, whatever, bro. Like, whatever. But I pull up in a Lamborghini, They're like, oh, I'm sorry, what did you say? Oh, I got to take notes. Oh, this is important. Oh, big deal now. I'm like, motherfucker, I said the same thing to you in a different car, and you didn't want to fucking hear it. So it was interesting to see how differently you were treated, and how people weighted the same thing that I said. They weighted it differently because I had the car, which, I mean, it seems weird, but I guess that's just human psychology. It's how things work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was a lot I learned from that. I would, anybody listening, if you're able to, even if you're not a car guy, I think just go and do something like that and have fun, and it like bring that experience into your life, because if you have the money to do it, it's only going to be positive. And if you don't like it, fucking sell it. And honestly, you probably sell it more than you bought it for right now.
Lease or buy? Lease or buy?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Typically, leasing an exotic is not the way to go. Mine was $280 out the door. When I sold it, I want to say it was I got like $205 back or something. So it cost me $75,000 to own the car for 2.5 years, and maintenance was like nothing. I mean, oil change is like $600, which is stupid expensive, but I only had to get it changed like twice. Super reliable car. You could daily drive that thing. So it cost me $75,000 to have the car for 2.5 years. If I had leased it, man, it would have cost me like 120. Because the difference in like leasing versus buying, like, oh, it's cheaper. It's like $2,500 versus $3,000. Not that big a difference. If you can afford $2,500, you can definitely afford $3,000. And if you can't, you shouldn't buy the fucking car
at all.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh, you lease it and like it goes from $3,000 to $300. Like it's usually not a deal. The only way I think leasing makes sense is if you make so much fucking money that you just need a massive write-off. Cool, lease it. It'll blow the most amount of money possible in the least amount of time.
See, that's what I was like. Some people say lease, some people say buy. So it's like
exotic
always
buy. Yeah,
leasing's different. It's like a watch, yeah.
Kind of like a watch. Well, the depreciation curve is different on them too. Like most cars, it's just a slow curve. Depreciation just goes down. Exotics, well, it used to be they would go down a little bit and then level off and then go up.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just going up.
Yeah.
There is
nothing right now. Because what do you say? 9 months or something like that? You have to wait?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. That's just the market right now.
Yeah. That's what it is. And once I get it though, whatever it's going to cost me, say it costs me like $300,000, like I'll immediately be able to sell it for $350 or $400 if I want to.
If you want to. Yeah. I want this.
I know.
Wait, what is it?
I got to talk to Matt. Maybe I can get two. One for me, one to sell.
Good investment. Wait, is it a Lambo, like the SUV? Like the
oh no.
Oh, okay.
No, just the Huracan.
Oh, another one.
But nice. I still have the spoiler over there from the previous one. So I think I'm gonna throw that on there.
Nice, dude. That's cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun, man. Just take it around. So get it.
I was gonna say, man. You mind?
Dude, hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, take your girl out. Go to dinner.
That'd be sweet. Dude, it's funny. We're about to wrap up. But like everything that you're saying to me about the Lambo, like of course I want that. Yeah. It really relates to getting a new place for myself and my girlfriend. It's like, okay, well, the places around San Diego, like downtown, that's where we want to be, a Little Italy. Some places are like a 1-bedroom, whatever, like $3,100. It's like, okay, cool. But the place we want is a little more than that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, the amenities are so much better. I'm like, so would I rather pay a couple $100 extra more dollars to get what I really want? It's kind of like what you said, where it's like $2,500 for the Lambo leasing, or just buy it full out for $3,000. It's like, so it's like, just a lot of things are making sense today, and it makes me happy.
That's why we do this, man. That's why we do this. Absolutely.
Cool. I think we're good.
All right, cool. Wrapping this one up.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully you guys were able to decipher some of the information from me randomly going off on tangents here. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or want to explore that further, PJ from his Instagram is Exotic Car Hacks, and he goes way in depth on this stuff, and he's totally right. He's amazing at what he does. Also, Tim Ferriss, his book, The 4-Hour Work Week. It's a little bit older book now, but that was really something that helped me decipher, like, okay, how do I buy this? And like, no. It's not how much the total cost is how much you need to make per day to afford that, or per month to afford that. So that book really helped like chop up some of these, elephant-sized things into bite-sized equations that you can, pull into your life. So that was super helpful. He's got an awesome podcast too, but that's different.
Hell yeah, man. Well, if you guys are watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, share to any people that you might know are entrepreneurs, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you just like to hear about work and just kind of building a business. So just share, subscribe, like, you know what to do.
All right. Shake and bake.
Shake and bake, man.